listening to Combat Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Now, actually with us is a good friend of mine who has done, he wasn't at the breakfast, but he has made the effort to be involved with a lot of our charity work, including City of Hope and some other things. Whenever I've had to drop the dime on him, he's shown up. He's quite the talented guy and a giver of his time, and he's most known for many, many projects, but probably most notably for playing Huey Lewis, playing a terrorist, playing a security guard in Die Hard. Also Wild Bill, Escape from Witch Mountain. The credits are endless, and you're doing some television work, but our good friend Dennis Hayden.
Hey, how's it going today, man?
Good to have you here, man. You're always a fun guy to have in the room. This time, though, it's not so humorous. This time it's a bit of we've got a cause.
Well, we've always got a cause.
Yeah, we can talk about how cool it was working for Joel Silver and stuff like that, but let's get to this cause real quick. What exactly is at stake here today?
Well, actually, I'm part of a group of United Screen Actors who, Ed Asner and Eric Hughes, he wrote Against All Odds with Jeff Bridges and directed it. I don't know if he directed it or not, but anyway, those guys have been, and William Richert, they've been fighting the unions for the last 7-8 years over the foreign levy money that.
Now, break this down for our audience, the common denominator. What unions are they fighting, and what exactly is the foreign levy?
A foreign levy is a foreign tax that the European and Central America, different countries, got together and said, we love American art, and we want to pay for American art. So we want to give money to writers, actors, directors, and so they have this huge fund that they've been collecting money for us. Well, the studios found out about this fund, and many, many years ago, and they went in and said, hey, we have the underlying rights to all this stuff, so we get the money. And this money goes to non-union actors, non-union directors. It goes to porno stars, directors. It's not just for union stuff.
It goes to everyone.
Goes to everyone. And so that artists can keep money coming in, and they can keep working and do their art instead of having to go build houses or something else. In between, they'll have money coming in. So the studios came in and said, well, this is all ours. So they took it. They took all the money to themselves. Now then, many years later, I think it was the Directors Guild or the Writers Guild, Eric Hughes and Richard could explain it better than I can, but they came in and said, hey, where's our cut?
Yeah.
So they said, okay, we'll give you a cut.
Are you saying that the studios got together with some kind of dual book system to hide profits?
Oh, yeah.
Have they ever done something like that?
Never. Right. So then in 2005, the Directors Guild and the Writers Guild made a pact not to tell the Actors Guild about this money. Oh. So in 2005, the Actors Guild found out about this money and said, hey, we want our money.
We want our cut.
So they negotiated a deal to get 50% from the studios, whatever it is, of the money, and then they get to keep a bunch of it for themselves, and they don't distribute it.
So you have to fight for this money. No one's typical in business. No one's saying, hey, I got this check for you. It's like you have to ask for that.
Yeah, you have to go ahead and fight for it.
So the initial collection of it from foreign entities was thought of as a tax?
Yes, it's a foreign tax called a foreign levy.
Okay.
They wanted that they gather on, that they pay on when you buy cassette tapes and any kind of audio-visual stuff in Europe, a tax on that goes to us.
So when someone in like Bolivia is watching Die Hard and it's like, yippee-ki-yay, pendejo, that's money there was a tax there that should have gone to you.
Yeah, if they bought that tape or that thing, there was a tax there, and a piece of it goes to the actor.
Not much money coming from China, I'm guessing, but other places maybe.
Well, here's the thing that'll blow you away. Is right here is a foreign levy thing. They have a website you can type your name in and see if you have any money coming as foreign levies. Well, I started on a long time ago. Here's one came in and it shows a bunch of movies here, and it shows the total I get. Now this is the biggest check I've ever gotten, and if this is not counting Die Hard, is $150.76 for 16 films.
For 16 films equals $150 residual tax payment, basically.
Well, yeah, but listen to this. 10 days later, these same 16 are up on this thing, and they've added 15 more movies, and the total is 10 cents more.
Okay.
There's no accounting. See, like I'll get a check for another 48 hours for a foreign league or something, but I know 3 or 4 of the stars, they don't get them.
Right. They don't. Nick Nolte's not even getting a check. You're
I
saying
don't know
possibly.
about Nick, but
Right.
I know some other ones that didn't get them, and it's the way with a lot of them. I've checked with my friends, and they don't get these, and they should get them because they had bigger parts than I did and made more money than me, or whatever. That's another thing. Money, I don't think has anything to do with whether you star in it or whether you're the.
Interesting. All right, let's bring your friend in to discuss this real quick. Let's knock this.
He's been in court with him.
Yeah, let's bring in William. We're going to talk a little shop. We'll be right back. All right, sorry for the delay. We're trying to work out a phone caller.
I'll talk to you in a minute.
All right, sorry. We have a lot
right
happening here. Actually joining us right now is William Richert. You know him from everything from Millennium to, well, shit, what haven't you done? My Own Private Idaho, The Client, quite a few things. Now, we're going to be getting a call from another ally of yours in this mess, but try to explain to the audience, William, if you could real quick, what exactly is Dennis' deal with he did get the point across, but what can you add to what Dennis said about this tax?
Well, it's a kind of a scheme. It's a form of money laundering scheme that has existed between the studios and the unions since 1992, when the unions first started to take their cut of the money.
Okay, here's your guy. Now, who's the caller that we've got calling in?
Eric Hughes.
Eric Hughes is the author, screenwriter of Against All Odds and
Okay.
White Knights.
Eric, hello.
Hey, hi.
Hey, you're on with Combat Radio. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. A little chaotic here, but I think the main point is that we get this quote-unquote money laundering scheme that William's talking about analyzed for our audience. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Well, the United States writers of audiovisual works and performers and directors have national treatment rights under the Berne Convention and soon actually under what is now known as the Beijing Treaty, which is a treaty for the protection of audiovisual performances. And that means that in countries in which there are performers' rights and authors' rights, that U.S. citizens have the same rights as the citizens of those countries. So monies that are collected, that are known as royalties, remuneration for performers and authors being writers and directors, are collected for U.S. citizens. What should have been done a long time ago, but which was concealed. The national treatment rights were concealed from the U.S. citizens who write not only now or in the future, write, direct, and perform audiovisual works, and by concealing the national treatment rights, they co-opted what would have been our ability, it still remains our right to do so, to create collecting societies. Collecting societies are also known as rights societies, and that would mean that the U.S. society for those citizens that write, direct, and perform audiovisual works produced in this country would then enter into agreements with the similar societies in those foreign countries and then collect for us and distribute to us the monies collected. However, that was the unions, Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA, the WGA Writers Guild, and the Directors Guild, presented themselves as legally mandated collecting societies, which they are not. Also told the collecting societies that we had agreed through collective bargaining to give, at that point, more than 90% to the companies that employ us. So they, all of the collecting societies cannot actually do this. So they require that the unions indemnify them for the difference, which means that should we go after the collecting society for what they gave to our employers, the unions would then pay us. So they needed to conceal all of this from us, and they actually presented it as small sums collected for us, and that we should be very grateful that they did this, if they had told us about this at all. And in fact, no one actually understood it or knew about it until I had the agreement. And in truth, they had denied that there was ever even an agreement. So I hope I have explained it clearly. But that's the genesis of it. When they were sued by Mr. Richert in 2005. they began telling various stories, and in fact, I would say that they've told so many stories that they can't keep them straight any longer.
You want to support that? They can't keep their story straight with you any longer?
Well, not only with
No,
me, but
I said they can't. They've told so many different stories that they can't keep them straight any longer.
No, that's okay. I was just looking to William to actually substantiate what you're saying. Let me ask you real quick. How much do you figure has been collected? Do you have an estimate on that? How much do you figure is owed, basically? How many billions are we talking about now?
Oh, but we're in the hundreds of millions. I mean, if you look to the Writers Guild that claims that it has paid out 120 million, that it has collected and paid out 120 million, when one considers that in the beginning that would have only been 7.5% of what was being collected being paid to writers, and then 25%, and then in recent years allegedly 50%. So there's no way of actually knowing this, since they provide no accounting, and in fact we're shredding the accounting until a whistleblower brought that out of the building and gave it to federal investigators. So I would say hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. But the records exist. They have claimed that the collecting societies no longer have the records, but the truth is that collecting societies are created by foreign laws and are mandated to file every year their financial dealings, and you know, this is the age of computers, and all records of this exist of what monies were paid to the unions and to the companies.
Let me ask you this again real quick. You said they were shredding the accounting evidence before the whistleblower basically made this situation known.
What happened is that what they would do is they kept no records. What they would do is that the monies are wire transferred, which they always claim that they came in checks. So when the monies were wire transferred, then the union, if they would then write checks for the first time. So the checks were written for the first time by the union. The union would write a check and then claim, this is, you know, within itself, inside the union itself, claim that they could not find the individual. These checks were deposited into an undeliverable account. The records of the checks were Xerox copies of the records of the check, and after 6 months' time, every 6 months, they would be shredded. So there was a woman who worked at the Writers Guild who felt that she shouldn't be doing this, and so she basically hid around in various parts of the building what she had been instructed to shred. And when she had learned that they were investigating this, she brought it out of the building and gave it to the federal investigators.
That sounds very, very serious. In fact, actually in studio with me is Mark Ryan, who most people know from films like The Prestige or, Robin Hood, but he was Bumblebee in the Transformer films. And when you made the motion about the guild not being able to find people, he motioned to himself like you're one of those people. That's the excuse they've been giving you.
Well, no, what happened was, and I'll just reiterate this, I won't go into the details of it because it did get sorted out in the end, but I was due some residuals on a film that I'd done on a video release, and I called up Screen Actors Guild and said, I'm due this money, and they said, well, it's going to be in the next accounting quarter, because they do it in the quarter. And the lady I was talking to, she said, but we are holding money in trust for you. And I went, really? I said, you're kidding me? She said, yeah, we've got money. We've been holding money here since 2001.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And I said, that's great. And I said, well, I'm thinking, well, a couple of $100, So I said, well, can I ask you why? And he said, yeah, because we've tried to write to you, and the checks keep coming back that you don't live there. And I said, well, it's funny because when you send me the demand for my really yearly dues for the union, they find me just fine. They always find me, you know what I mean? So,
yes.
And I said, that's kind of interesting. I said, well, what is it, a couple of $100? She said, I can't give you the amount over the phone. You'll have to come into the office. I said, yeah, but I'll give you 3 guesses. I said, okay, well, is it $1,000? She went, it's more than that.
She said she can't give you the amount, but she'll give you 3 guesses.
Right.
That's professionalism at its finest.
And
right?
I'm not making this up, this is true. I said, is it more than $2,000? She went, yes, it's more than $2,000. And I went, okay, I've got to go for it now. I said, is it more than $3,000? And she said, yes, it is.
And you said, I'm on my way.
And I said, I'll be down there tomorrow to get a check. And I said to the people, I went and presented myself and said, here's my card, I've paid my dues. Why has this happened? And they said, well, we've obviously got, I said, the address that you've got is exactly the same address. And you've had this money since 2001. So you'd had it at that point for maybe 8 years or something.
Okay.
I said, now who gets the interest?
Did you ever get a settlement a letter about a settlement for the foreign levies? Did you ever get
no,
a letter?
I don't remember having ever received a letter regarding
Interesting. So
But what's very interesting about what you just said, there are a couple of things, and this is what we've, in the demand for accountability that we've served on the Screen Actors Guild, is that when you claim that you have not been that the money's been forwarded back, you have to maintain records of those, whether it's copies or the originals. You have to have a record that shows they return to sender. And so they're going to have to produce about 77,000 of those. But also, and this is even more important, is they fraudulently endorsed your checks. The unions do not have the authority, which would have to be given by each individual, which means that you would have had to sign an authorization for them to endorse your checks. So they have been for years fraudulently endorsing residuals checks. They do not have the right to do that. So we're holding them accountable for that as well.
Okay.
And these are very serious matters. Also, as I said, the foreign royalties are wire transferred. No one has ever authorized, which you would have to do individually, the unions to accept wire transfers of your money. Also,
wire
for them
transfers
to
are
be
a federal offense under the RICO.
I asked for the interest. I said, who gets the
that's
interest
mail
of
fraud,
this?
because also when you received what was more than 3,000, you didn't receive the accounting that they originally had. So you don't actually know, and the likelihood, which is what we discovered with the whistleblower, is that it was a lot more. What she said is that with residuals, that someone would call and say that they found that you have residuals for me. So she would call the chief financial officer at the Guild and in his office, and he would say, how much? And she would say 30,000. He would think for a second and say, give him 6. So it's quite serious.
Right.
And they've been doing this for many years.
So they just made up the figure.
A mafia mentality of giving just enough
made
to
up the
keep
figure.
quiet.
And because you didn't receive, I'm sure you'll verify this. You didn't receive an accounting. You didn't receive what they initially received.
No, they just gave me a check. They wrote me a check on the spot. Were happy to get me out the office because I was actually in the office with other people standing around going, where's the interest on this money?
Well, that's not evidence of anything, because a lot of people want you out of their office.
Yeah,
Mark.
that's true.
Quick,
they do.
Be honest.
Get that idiot out of my office before it all goes sideways.
But this is all very interesting. Eric, what I want to say is actually this segment of the show was kind of thrown together on behalf of the cause when we talked to Dennis yesterday. You know, he mentioned William. William. He's actually kept me posted on what William's been going through for several months, and we've been talking about getting him on.
Oh, yeah.
And this kind of thing with you chiming in has kind of been thrown together. But what I want to ask you real quick is, we need to do a follow-up on this fairly soon on this program where we can look into certain details on how to work towards getting this solved for you guys. But what can our listeners, of which there are now several million in several different countries, what steps can they take on your behalf besides, say, watching your film Raise the Titanic? What do you recommend our listeners do?
One thing that I'm sure everyone who's listening, everyone creates at some point in their life. We all create, and we have the right to benefit from that creation. And so they should let not only their governments know, but the right societies, the collecting societies, and any government entity to their feelings about this and their concerns, because I'm sure they're all concerned, because it not only because I'm sure they don't want us to be cheated of what we've benefits from what we've created, but also each and every one of them have dreamed or have created, and so it is an assault on a truly a human right. And when you go after this as they've done, when you go to harm us economically, that is an economic crime against the class of humanity. So it's a very serious issue, and people should pay a great deal of attention, because this has been going on for several decades now, but it's a house of cards, and it's a house of cards that is about to be simply blown away, and there will be justice. I can assure them, because it's time for it. So, but everyone must be diligent about this, because it is an assault on all of us, and on our dreams, and on what we create. So, I hope that has been helpful.
No, that's been very helpful. Do you guys want to add anything in conclusion to what Eric's
No, I just
telling
want to
us?
say, hey, Eric, man, that was great, man. Good talking to you, buddy. Good
Great
listening to
talking
you.
to you.
I think
Eric is constantly great. And also remember that behind all of this are millions of dollars owed to actors taken by studios that still have billions of dollars behind them.
Is
and
there a
we can
website?
Go get our money.
Is it a website?
Is there a website? Yeah. Is there
There's
something?
screenrights.net, which is Eric Hughes' website, but I think we're going to put together
Eric.
a website for this show.
Eric, I want to talk to you off air when we wrap the show about some things we can collaborate on to get the word out. We'll get the website information
Great.
and some stuff like that and re-strategize a better way to address this with our audience, because I think we're going to really need to kind of put some pressure on this topic on a regular basis in order to get anyone to wise up.
Oh, yes,
unfortunately.
yeah. And of course, this the demand that we've served is a very active thing and will be. I doubt seriously. Maybe it would be very nice if they give us what we're demanding, which are our rights under the LMRDA. If not, we will then have to bring them to U.S. District Court and ask the court to enforce our rights.
Is this a case that's been brought in Los Angeles?
I'm sorry.
Is this a case that's been actually physically brought in Los Angeles?
Well, we've served the demand. Before we can actually in December of 2011, this past December, Ed Harris, Martin Sheen, Nancy Sinatra, Clancy Brown, George Cohen, Renee Taylor, and Joseph Bologna served a demand for accountability, which initially SAG responded to by saying that they would let them see the agreements, but they would have to sign a confidentiality agreement, and then pretended not to understand what they were meant by demanding the full accounting of the monies. So now we've served another demand again, which now has been joined by Dennis and by William, and
by Combat Radio.
So if they don't provide this for us, then and our lawyer has informed them already because she's had conversations with the outside counsel for SAG that this is a 501 complaint action, and we will be filing if they don't do it in a timely period. Which
What does 501 mean, Eric?
501. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that means 501 for people who don't know what that means. 501.
It's under U.S. code the corruption by union officials.
Yeah,
so
it's a Federal Corruption Act. Is what
federal corruption.
We're going
so
after them for federal corruption.
I'm sorry to speak in numbers there.
Yeah, you need to dumb it down for us, Eric. You need to dumb it down around here so we understand what you're talking about.
Okay.
Eric, I'm going to sign off with you for now, but I'm going to get in touch with you shortly when the show wraps about doing a follow-up, okay?
Great, terrific, and thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll be back. Everyone hang tight.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. That was screenwriter Eric Hughes from White Knights, Raise the Titanic, etc. William, give us a closing thought. What can people do? What do you want people to do? What do you want our listeners to do? Go beat somebody up in a dark alley or what?
No, but I mean the actors can respond by asking the union where the other parts of their checks are.
Okay.
The missing parts
So
of their
start
checks.
with inquiries.
Right, from the union, and then also these cases are all handled by an attorney named Neville Johnson, who is the lawyer for all these class action lawsuits that were basically stonewalled. They used the court system against the litigants.
Right.
I just met with Judge Wiley. I was lead plaintiff for the Writers Guild for the past 7 years, and I watched how the lawyers made millions of dollars by just keeping the case going.
Exactly.
And never telling anybody anything. The lawyers have been paid. And the leaders of the Writers Guild gave false information to the membership about me and about how much. They said, he's only owed $86, and my first check was for $1,200. Just all these you can't have institutions you can't trust handle your money.
Of course.
So we want honesty and accountability.
In Hollywood?
Top down.
In Hollywood?
Well, Dorothy Parker said there's only one ism in Hollywood, and that's plagiarism. But she was wrong. Cronyism.
Yes, of course.
There's another ism in Hollywood.
Well, that's evident by
This
some of the
is
movies
money,
we're getting.
by the
But
way.
in 7 years of court, they provided 1 page of
Oh,
accounting.
You got to speak into your mic, Dennis. You can't just have the conversation off to the side of the studio. All right, so your first, William, what you want people to do is start making inquiries with the union about this.
Or call Neville Johnson, the attorney, Neville Johnson, Johnson, who's on Cannon Drive, who purports to be the lawyer for all of us, who's taken millions of dollars, and ask him to do his job and get a full accounting. In the meantime, I'm going back into court with motions I represent all the American writers. Think about that. You're looking at a man who, because of this litigation, came to represent all the writers. What a monumental concept to me. That's how I kept going back to court saying, wait a minute, according to this document, if I settle, all these writers are tied to this settlement. That's a key issue here.
Wow.
And when you talk about, when I was in the courtroom, the lawyer said next to Tony Segal, who's the lawyer for the Writers Guild, $200 million have been collected. Well, Tony Segal for the past years is saying, anyway, it's a monumental lie that sits on top of the awareness and the workability. These unions control the economic destiny of millions of people.
What's your time like today? Do you have another 15 minutes? Can we talk when we wrap
Sure.
the show? All right, we're going to strategize on what we can do about this. But in the meantime, it's an industry-driven show, as most of you know. If you're an actor out there or a writer, start making inquiries and find out what's what.
I didn't know about this. I'll be the first.
Nobody does.
I was unaware of it.
Yeah, well, obviously, I saw your reaction when when Eric said that they can't find you as an excuse. You immediately could identify with that. All right, so more in a moment. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Combat Radio with Ethan Dettenmaier, right here on LA Talk Radio.